Hello and welcome to Golden Geography. Today we're going to be thinking a little bit about trade. Trade is one of the options on the human paper for the OCR Geography A level. We're going to be looking at key question 1, which is what are the contemporary patterns of international trade? And this is divided into two key areas and we will look at both of those. So first of all, question 1A. International trade involves flows of merchandise, services and capital which can vary spatially. So first of all, what is trade? Well, trade is or refers to the exchange of goods or services or assets between individuals or businesses or countries, and it's a key part, a fundamental part of economics. It has existed since the day dot, from the point where someone had, oh, I have 3 extra eggs and you've got some carrots, let's exchange them. That was the first kind of trade. There are a huge variety of different types of trade, but we can see some here. We have domestic trade, which is internal, so within a country or an area. International trade, which can also be deemed as global, so between different countries. We have imports and exports. Imports are goods that you bring into your country, exports are ones that you send out. Free trade is the idea that you can trade and exchange goods without taxes or tariffs. Trade barriers are anything that might be put in place to restrict trade. Trade agreements are agreements between countries that help free up trade. Bilateral is trade between two countries, multilateral is between multiple countries. You can have e-commerce and online trade, commodity trade, we've got fair trade, trade of services. All of these are different types of trade, and trade is absolutely essential for economic growth and job creation. It's at the heart of how our countries work. So let's have a little think about the different things that we can trade. Merchandise is probably the main kind of product that we're thinking of. Merchandise is anything that is tangible. It's something that you can touch, that you can exchange, you can buy and sell. And this tends to be products either that are food-based or clothing-based, but actually you can also talk about merchandise in terms of things that are labelled or associated with a brand in some way. And here we have a little graph showing us the growth of that. We have a little dip when COVID hit and people stayed at home and didn't buy so much, but generally the pattern is that we are buying more and more merchandise, trading more and more stuff around the world. You can also buy and sell services. These could be financial services or legal or educational services, anything where it's intangible, so you can't touch it, but it's a knowledge base. It's providing a service to people who don't have that. So many developed countries or advanced countries might be selling financial or legal services abroad to countries that don't have that already established within their economy. We also have capital. There's lots of different types of capital, but in essence, capital is the stuff that you exchange for your merchandise or your services. So predominantly you're looking at money, cash, or some sort of asset. It could be gold, it could be bonds, it could be land. You might have human capital, those kind of skills or knowledge that you might be exchanging, some sort of potentially social or physical capital as well. But it's the other side of that trade. So if I'm giving you a banana, I want some money in return. So how is trade happening? Well, this map is showing us just a fraction of global trade, and we can see it's proportional. We see that there's a lot of trade going on around the world. And there are trades both within regions, so within Europe, countries within Europe's, and that's called intra-trade, but also outside of your particular European region. So trade between, say, France and Brazil, or Germany and Canada. So trade outside of your region is called inter-regional trade. If we have a little think about who and where people are trading with, well, it's often unequal, and it really does depend on the countries. Most countries trade with most other countries something. So traditionally, you have some very historic links between advanced countries. So countries like the UK and France have traded products for many years. Traditionally, we would send wool across to Europe because it grows particularly well and develops well here, and in return we would receive things like wine. But over time that's developed, and advanced countries now trade a lot with economically developing countries. We have shifted our manufacturing to those economically developing countries because their labour is cheaper. So we now buy the products that they make back, and we sell them things like services, financial services. Advanced countries and lower income developing countries will also trade. We will buy their food products or their mineral products and sell them services in return. We do get bilateral and multilateral trade between countries, and we have trading blocs as well that will trade with each other. Countries very often will trade with neighbours, but also within old kind of familial groups. So the Commonwealth, for example, those Commonwealth countries will trade with each other. We also find that we get patterns of trade between historically close countries. So a really good example of inter-regional trade between two different countries of different areas, is between the US and the UK. Because of our language and our history, we have a special relationship, so we trade well with America, and we do rely on each other heavily for that trade relationship. We also find that we have trade within intra-regional. So different countries within Europe are well known for different products, for champagne from France or beer from Germany or racing cars from Italy, and they will trade those with each other. So really good, strong trade within a particular area. 1B. Current patterns of international trade are related to global patterns of socio-economic development. So development refers to how countries develop, and to do that they need to use their economy. So here we have an image of the world, and we can see advanced countries in grey, lower income developing countries in purple, and economically developing countries in yellow. And those yellow and purple countries want to develop and become advanced countries, and the question is, how do they do it? Well, trade is important. Trade is at the very heart of that, and this model shows you that. The very core of a country and its ability to develop is the economy that it has. If your economy is based on agricultural products, you're not going to earn a lot of money from selling bananas, so you're not going to have a lot of money to spend on education or healthcare. But if your economy is based on service industry, tourism or financial services, you will generate a lot more money through tax, and therefore you will have more money to spend on developing. However, when we are looking at trade and how countries develop, there are some key challenges. Political challenges, it could be the stability of the country. Is it politically stable or not? If it's not stable, then people won't want to trade with it. What is its political system? Does it have any human rights violations that means that trade barriers have been put in place? What about the geography? Does it have access to things like ports, coastlines, or is it landlocked? Are there any kind of climatic issues or concerns that mean that the weather is too extreme for those products to grow or to be traded? Or is there any environmental damage from the products that it's producing? There could be social challenges, disease particularly, or lack of education or lack of healthcare means that the workforce isn't functioning at its optimum, and therefore that might restrict the development of a country. And then finally, economic. Does that country have a good financial system? Does it have banks where people can get loans to start up businesses? Does it have a stable economy? Does it have a stable currency? Does it have natural resources and industries that support those natural resources, their extraction and production? And all of that will then influence what a country can trade and how much money it gets from what is traded. And we can look at how developed a country is through looking at some key indices. If we are looking at what a country is exporting, if it's exporting bananas, it's not going to make as much money as if it is exporting Apple Macs. So the value of the product is really important. The value of exports, the value of it, can be reflected in the economy of a country. And then we have the Human Development Index, which is a composite. It puts together a whole range of things like life expectancy, education, and it ranks countries. So you can see which are the most developed, those in dark green, and those at the least developed. But it is a comparison. So the biggest problem with using HDI to compare countries and their economic development is that actually a country could develop, but if other countries develop more than it, it will fall down the ranking. So it could be ranked lower next year, even though it has improved, because it is a ranking system. The other thing we need to think about is how trade can affect countries. So can it be positive? Can it promote stability and growth and development within countries? Absolutely. But that will depend on things like movement of people, the flow of people, migration, and what that means in terms of money. So are people migrating to a more developed country and sending remittances, sending money back that then can be spent in that country on things like education and healthcare? Are they learning new ideas and learning new skill sets in that country that they've migrated to, that they are then teaching family at home or sending technology home? Is that international trade, that international movement of people helping countries develop? Or are there problems? Does that international trade cause inequalities and cause issues? So if you have a family member who's migrated to an advanced country and is sending you money, that's great for you, but what about the person next door who doesn't? Does that cause inequality in access to healthcare or education between those who have and those who have not? So if people are relying on money from abroad, their country is not providing for them, does it cause problems? And the answer is yes, absolutely. So we can see here the image, the bar graph on the right shows us India. India relies heavily on remittances. Those people in India who receive them are definitely helping India to develop, but are benefiting far more than other people within India who don't receive those remittances. Okay. Pause the video, have a look at these key points, green if you know it, amber if you need to review it, red if you really don't get it and you need to have a go again. Thanks for listening.